You may have heard of the term mission drift. It's when an organisation moves away from their original calling and purpose. It's very subtle, and it often happens to organisations that want to please the culture rather than meet their calling. And one organisation in particular has clearly lost its way. Let's check it out. So I'm sure that when you think of Amnesty International, you think of topics such as unlawful torture and other ill treatment, death penalty, media freedom, freedom of expression, rights of refugees and migrants, asylum seekers. Amnesty International, they say, is a movement which mobilises the humanity in everyone and campaigns for change so we can all enjoy our human rights. And their vision is of a world where those in power keep their promises, respect international law, and are held to account. Now, if you thought Amnesty International Aotearoa New Zealand were about human rights, that's the New Zealand chapter of Amnesty International, well, you might be totally wrong. You just need to read, for example, their submission supporting the decriminalisation of abortion when the law was being passed in New Zealand 2 years ago. And of course, it's a worldwide policy to decriminalise all abortion. In their submission, they start by saying, our vision is for every person to enjoy all the rights enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and other international human rights standards. Well, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 3, says that everyone has the right to life, and the Convention on the Rights of the Child says the child, by reason of physical and mental immaturity, needs special safeguards and care, including appropriate legal protection before as well as after birth. So their submission is a good start. But what follows is completely the opposite message from this so-called human rights group. They say, we recognise that legal protection of human rights, including the right to life, commences at birth. Might as well scrap all those prenatal guidelines about mothers not drinking or smoking, or how it's good for them to sing to their unborn child or eating healthily. They then go on to say, we believe Model A will best ensure that access to safe abortions is effectively available to pregnant people to make their own decisions free from barriers, delays, or restrictions that could violate their human rights, including their reproductive autonomy. Now, Model A at the time, when they were considering the law, was abortion for any reason up to birth. They then go on and say in their submission, criminalisation of abortion in any circumstances and denial of access to safe abortion services is a manifestation, cause and consequence of social systems that discriminate, deny personal and bodily autonomy, and impose unequal burdens on the basis of individuals' reproductive capacities and their pregnancy status, among other related factors, end quote. Well, too bad about the personal and bodily autonomy of unborn children, discrimination against them, or denial of access to life. And just to show how woke Amnesty International is, they go on to say this. Amnesty International New Zealand therefore recommends that the bill be clarified further and that it is made explicit that services should be available also to transgender people and people of other gender identities capable of becoming pregnant. And then we move on to prostitution. Once again, Amnesty International wants full decriminalisation worldwide. But decriminalisation has failed to achieve its stated objectives of improving the safety, health and welfare or conditions of workers. In fact, what it greatly improves when you decriminalise prostitution is you improve the conditions for pimps and brothel owners. You know, prostitution is harmful to workers in the communities, and the association of prostitution with gang and criminal behaviour, alcohol and drug abuse, sexual abuse and violence means we are sentencing more and more vulnerable people to an unacceptable situation. I mean, how can we be serious about reducing sexual violence against women when the state legitimizes sexual abuse and exploitation of vulnerable people? There's a healthy stigma against prostitution, and for good reason. It's about the human rights of the vulnerable woman. But Sadly, Amnesty International seem to be on a different page. And sadly, again, they also made a submission supporting the conversion therapy ban. Never mind that the bill says that consent is irrelevant, a person determining their own direction and choices, and that's a serious interference with the rights and freedoms affirmed in the New Zealand Bill of Rights. Never mind the right to freedom of religion, never mind the right of self-determination as a founding principle of the Mental Health Foundation, and never mind that the law would oppress and violate the right for a person to seek whatever lifestyle you desire. Now, if all of this isn't making you rethink how woke and how confused Amnesty International is about human rights, here is the latest example. Amnesty International's Israel-Apartheid report, published late last year, and it's been soundly rejected by many countries that we relate to. Our principal allies, Australia, USA, United Kingdom, and Canada. And these countries recognise that the report is divorced from reality, displays double standards, and is anti-Semitic. New Zealand Jewish groups say that it's replete with lies, false information, and racism. And notably, no Arab nation has endorsed the report. The Australian Foreign Minister said the report was, quote, divorced from reality. A German Foreign Ministry spokesperson said, "We reject expressions like apartheid or a one-side focusing of criticism on Israel. That is not helpful to solving the conflict in the Middle East," end quote. The United Kingdom rejected the report, saying, "We do not agree with the use of this terminology," end quote. And the President of the Czech Republic sent a letter to the President of the State of Israel. He said he was informed about the alarming document made by Amnesty International and said, "I am horrified about such strong anti-Semitic stand and I completely condemn such unilateral statement." The Austrian Foreign Ministry criticised it. Even the United States Department noted that it, quote, rejects the view that Israel's actions constitute apartheid and that it is important as the world's only Jewish state that the Jewish people might not be denied their right to self-determination, and we must ensure there isn't a double standard being applied, end quote. There's that pesky self-determination term again, the one that Amnesty International totally ignored with the conversion therapy bill. In fact, the executive director of Amnesty International, Israel, has criticised the report, calling it a punch to the gut. And she says it's not helping the situation, but maybe making things worse. And New Zealand's foreign minister has been silent on it. Maybe they don't even think it's worth commenting on. Look, what's the bottom line in all of this? Just beware of Amnesty International's woke ideology that is undermining all the good work that they have done and should be doing in the area of unlawful torture, media freedom, and rights of refugees and asylum seekers. When they ignore the rights of vulnerable women being exploited in prostitution, when they buy into gender ideology and deny that only women can give birth, when they deny that fact, and when they fail to protect the human rights of our most vulnerable, the unborn child, you know that they have lost their way.